Hi, I'm Jonathan Schultz from Team Huge, and you're listening to the RoboCast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Elliott64, and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself, Steve the AmericanKilljoy, and Woodrow. You're both back. You're both
I know.
back. I was
Both coordinated.
Honestly,
back in your house.
Thank you. A long last. I think it's been a hot minute since all three of us were kind of together at the same time at the start of an episode.
Yeah. Or at least all three of us in our own homes at the start of an episode.
This is fact. Yeah, we've been all over the place.
It's true. It's true.
We should make this more of a common tradition instead of breaking this up.
Yeah, I prefer this to being on a train platform followed by a train followed by a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. And obviously fighting Lego last week as well, which was good fun.
It was great.
I gotta build one of those at one point. I'm just bad.
As you can see as well, we are joined by Jonathan Schultz from Team Huge. Hello, Jonathan. How are you? It's been a long old time since we've spoken to you.
I think this is the third one, but I lose count.
First for me, because I think first. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever talked to you in person because I missed out the last. I mean, I know I missed out the last season. I remember that fully, but
yeah, I think the last time we spoke to you was the amazing fight with Mammoth last season, which feels like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it?
A lot of things have happened since then.
A lot of things have happened since then. Not all great. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about 2021 Huge.
Yeah, definitely. It was pretty much all new Huge, like just trying to get the demons out from 2020 and cover a lot of the things that we saw that weren't working all that well. It was like, you have the high moments because you have the low moments a little bit, and 2020 taught us a lot of things that we got away with before and that we can't really get away with anymore, of slower spin up and being a more defense focused team. It doesn't mean much when you just get thrown out of the arena by Mammoth or something. So that we're an offense focused team. And that was was really inspired. We watched a lot of fights with Captain Jack and Straddle in England, and they're like, well, you don't have to be a defense focused team if you can just wreck someone in 30 seconds. So there's an idea.
Good plan.
And so that's what we did. We Huge has a butt now, and
he's been doing some squats. He's been doing some squats over the off season.
The power butt. The butt is full of motors, and we
as is
as is tradition. It gets you going.
Best place to keep them.
And yeah, so it's twice as many motors. It's geared for a lower top speed, so it went from spinning up in about probably 12 seconds with like a tailwind to now it gets up to full speed in about 3 or 4. And so that's the change in how you see Huge this year, because traditionally it's been a robot that kind of like scuttles in for a hit and then runs away. And that works until you're fighting Whiplash, and then it doesn't work anymore. This year we're chasing people, and there's a whole more fun to it when I'm driving it, and there's a whole more fun to it for the team, because I think they're used to like picky poke, little like, look, I got the police stuff,
like pot shots sort of thing.
Exactly. And now it's like, look, I went 8 inches deep into the front of the frame. Like it's a very different mentality.
It's funny because I speak to Rory Mangles quite a lot from Team Nuts from Robot Wars, and he was kind of not involved, but like I believe he was discussing things with you like during filming and things, and he was saying like the way that he was describing things, he was saying, look, Huge has gone from being like, he's gone from one level to something very different, or potentially to something very different. And I was kind of thinking, that's quite an ominous thought, because you kind of, the way that Huge is designed inherently is kind of, it's hard to armor against because you don't really know where it's going to hit you. It's hard to plan where it's going to hit you.
Exactly.
And if you're hitting hard, as well as getting those kind of snipe shots that you were getting before, it's quite a dangerous kind of recipe, really.
Right. It's coming up on the limits of the bolts that you attach the last second armor with now, rather than the last second armor being something that actually covers up like the snipe shot things. It's just we'll just go through it instead. And just in the ways we were super aggressive with weight cutting and stuff, so we didn't compromise the defense. It's still as defensive as it was in 2020. It's the exact same wheels. It's the same metal thickness on the frame. We have even more armor configurations, like the chins are a new thing for this year, which saved us against Switchback. It's added a bunch of the power to the defense, which it already had, we just cut weight with like lightweighted parts inside. It's got a little bit of carbon fiber in there, like the whole 9 yards. And it's so now it's like the defense and offense. We just need to keep it like working because we had the drive die against Switchback.
Well, I was going to bring that up a little bit later on. Let's talk about your season to date first. Obviously, it was very frustrating as a viewer, because obviously knowing how last season went, and you spent all this effort, as I said, kind of I spoke to Rory a fair bit. All this effort went in, and then you fight Riptide, and you don't really get going.
We didn't get to we were like, there was all the anticipation of just like, oh, people are gonna see, you're gonna know what New Huge can do, and then off it goes.
and that was it.
And that was it.
It was so frustrating.
That was like day, I want to say like 6 of the trip. So we'd already been out there for a while. And then after the fight, we take it out of the screws. It still works because we weren't damaged falling into the screws. There was like a few little things, some little stuff bent, so we just fixed it. And then it was like 3 more days until we fought again. So we're just like sitting, and we see it. We know what it can do in the test box. Obviously, we know how fast it is. We know how powerful it is. And we're just like, first person who gets in the way of this thing, they don't know.
They're gonna get it. They get
it. I feel bad for Retrograde in that respect. They definitely were going in with an idea of what they knew Huge was, and had literally no warning of what, like, with the armor, and they had like the front tall panels like Whiplash does, and tough tanky robot. And I think they were expecting us to like run and go spin up, and it was just all out aggression, and I don't think they had a plan for that. So
it was reminded me of the old Bronco armor setup, just the everything on top, and then the everything wasn't on top anymore.
And that's new for us, because usually like with the Bronco we like put some, we put like a hole in a section of it, but this was just like get off.
Like, it's like you're peeling off Lego.
Exactly.
You're familiar with that, Jevin. Just slowly picking pieces apart.
So. I mean, it literally looked like a Robot Arena 2 fight. Like the whole segment of Robot we're leaving, which is not, and it's not typical for a Huge. Like I've got, little pulleys from all sorts of people, because I always hit the pulley and then they give me the pulley. This is like, chunk.
And that's the thing with Huge. Like, no matter how many parts you pull off of another robot, you're not going to get high centered by anything, because you have all of the ground clearance. So
nice.
You can just rip everything and just litter the arena with pieces, and then just kind of crawl over it.
And then you T-pose on the upper deck, just to assert dominance a little bit more.
It's a stage.
Yeah,
when the world's
one
a
of
stage.
The best moves in this season of BattleBots. It's where one wheel goes up one set of screws, and then the other just goes, just go up the other set of screws as well. We'll just go and spin. It's fine.
I think like that is. It helped because that fight was us exercising the demons a lot of 2020. And like I didn't intend to go climb the screws when I went to the shelf. I was just kind of in like adrenaline panic and drove towards it, because the whole team was screaming shelf, and I was like, okay, and I just went. But to climb this, like literally both sets of screws, was I think another part of it, of just like, and also we fixed the Riptide thing.
Yeah, exactly.
The Tegris wheels are a lot harder to get caught in that. They don't flex as much, and the reason we were caught with Riptide was it was super flex, because they didn't change. Exactly, they had changed how the sneeze, they call it the sneeze guards, but like the angular guards work. So the pole can't sit over the guard, and then there was a little thin piece of Lexan on the front of the guard all the time, every year. Like Sanoayachi went through it against Endgame, and it was great TV, and it went everywhere. Well, now it's like 2 inches thick, so now we're pushed farther towards the arena, and so it just pinned us. And the Tegris is so stiff it'll just bounce off the screw. So it was like that last demon to exercise it, and also we can climb your dang screws.
It highlights something that we spoke about in the sort of preview for the whole season of, can Huge climb up there? Oh yes, it can. Yes, it can.
I was watching that. I was like, you're gonna see.
I have to say, like before we kind of get onto the fights, the last thing I kind of wanted to address was like just the relief and the stress just pouring off of you after that fight was just like, it was very, very nice to see, because like it was very obvious last season. We've spoken about ad nauseum. Obviously the Hydra fight, and then obviously going on from Bounty Hunters, things just didn't quite happen.
Mhm.
How you were wanting to, and then obviously this season, as you mentioned, the Riptide fight didn't quite go the way you wanted to.
Yeah.
After the retrograde fight, just the sheer stress and just the relief of it all coming together, it was very, very nice to see. Like, it's nice to see that you cared so much.
Well, it's what you think about,
Yeah.
Going into retrograde, we'd lost 6 of our last 8 fights. Like that is the type of thing where you start to question huge, and you start to question, like, is this the design we want to hitch ourselves to forever? Because you don't want to get stuck in a situation where you just come back every year and you don't win anything, and it wasn't even losing cool sometimes. Falling in the screws sucks, bike rack sucked. Like it's not even good fights. And so it's when you see it all come together, and it's not just in your head. Like it's not just Rory Mangles telling me over Facebook Messenger that it will spin up quick. I promise. Like it's it's real. It actually went and did it, and that's like it's indescribable. It's such a relief to have all that stress come off, and they cut the retrograde post fight very nice for us, because there was a good 30 seconds or so that I was just like heaved sobbing into Maddie's shoulders. After that like after I hug her, like that, it was everything just came out, and so yeah, it was a lot for us.
I was just very happy for you. Just like I said, just watching the relief was very, very nice to see.
I think if we were still on ABC, they would have gotten every angle of that.
Oh,
100%.
They have the microphone that's like crammed between 2 shirts, and you'd be hearing that like underwater. Oh god, yeah. Well, I'm more than happy that we don't do that, and they just let the focus stay on the robots. I think that's they do the show right in that way.
Agreed.
Clearly, I mean it's quite a good show to have for Discovery. They sure do love it, so much so that we're already getting another year. So
Hope so.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some fights. This is the last episode of the prelims, if you like, or the pre-season. So let's talk about the episode itself. And we start off with one of the fights of the season, I think, in Bloodsport and Claw Viper.
It has no reason to be an absolute banger, but by God, it is.
It was so good. It was so good. And I will say this as well, like watching the fight back, I've watched it back a few times. Claw Viper were a door's handle away from being in the 32.
They turned into Bite Force 2015 for a second.
I mean, I very nearly saw flashbacks of 2018 Bloodsport flying out of the arena, because I was just like, oh my god! It was like it pivots. If that little stick wasn't there, it'd be out. That little upright.
Oh my god! It was so close. And credit to the Claw Viper team. Okay, I've seen a lot of people saying that Claw Viper should have been given a play. As much as it was a cool fight, and I think recency bias may come into it a little bit. I feel like the season they had was great and much better than last time. And if it was a few more, play-ins, I think they would have been definitely one of them. However, in this instance, I feel like it was kind of correct that they didn't get that opportunity. Within a year, I feel like Claw Viper is going to be unbelievably scary to watch.
Yes.
It already is very good. It's just, it needs a little bit more dialing in.
And they're so very nearly there with the driving.
Oh my gosh.
The driving in this was phenomenal.
Almost gets them the win if it wasn't so it's one-sided with
damage. We were talking about this.
It was completely beheaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was UK rules, the damage, would have carried a lot, but aggression is what carries the most weight in a lot of tournaments over here.
Yep.
And I think you'd split that probably in Claw Viper's favour.
I think, yeah.
But I was telling, I talked with Kevin a lot, and after this fight, he was excited that it worked well, but I don't think he realized like how well it looked and how well it worked. And I told him afterwards, like, this is your application video for every season that you ever want to get in until the end of time. Like, this is the coolest fight you've ever had. And it's because Bloodsport, it's obviously changed in tune since last year, but it's effectively still the robot that was like last year's 2 or 3 seed. And looking at the growth of last year's Claw Viper, where he was in the same boat that we were, I'm just like, why won't this stupid thing work properly? To have that growth to the current one, or at least the bottom half of the current one, it's a lot of growth, and I'm excited like of what next Claw Viper is, because I think that he can fix losing the arms and the head and stuff. Like, I think that that's a much more fixable problem than Bloodsport getting through that armor and and stuff like that.
I think as well, this is. I feel like we've kind of also given Bloodsport a little bit of a disservice because that spinner worked for 3 minutes after getting smashed around.
And that's true because their growth too, because they also didn't used to be able to do that.
Got to turn the weapon off, make sure it doesn't burn up, and then
cool it down.
So
yeah, exactly.
It was full tilt. It was full tilt for just about the majority of that fight, and it was just a banger from start to finish. And you said it at the start. This had no business being as good as it was. Oh man, I really wish I could see that lifter really grab onto something and really lift something, because like in this fight, like something that's really dangerous. I'd like to see it. I would have loved to see it really get Bloodsport up off the ground, but we really never had a chance.
Dragon get lifted up and then thrown onto their wheels.
Yeah,
in past week, but yeah. It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I want to see it more.
I want to see the 4-bar. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. I said that when we were talking about the Black Dragon fight. I'm like, yeah, we've been teased this little 4-bar, but unfortunately, it probably would have still been ripped off.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have mattered either way, really, would it? Unfortunately for Claw Viper, but I mean, what a great fight! And as you say, Jonathan, a great exhibition of Claw Viper for the future. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see them again. Later on.
So.
But
also highlights the. I'm sorry, adding last notes on as well.
No, that's fine.
The benefit of this new sort of style of floating armor around the front of Claw Viper, because it's all sort of wubbed on and everything, and it's all spaced away from the main chassis and just held up supremely well to the big blows of Bloodsport.
Yeah, and of course you got to be careful with shock mounted armor, where like we've seen in the past where people put like those little nubs and try to have the whole of their armor on. Those can also be weak points, unfortunately, where like it's those areas shear, and then all of a sudden you don't have an armor panel that was shock mounted, and now you're exposed. So getting that right is huge.
They found the balance.
No pun intended.
Yeah, the armor is something crazy because it's all like one piece bent, so it starts as like this 8-foot long like rectangle, and they bent a whole. So there isn't even any. He tried to design out all the weak points and stuff. It was really a lot of growth for it.
Definitely. Yeah. The future's very bright for Claw Viper, but maybe not this season, but I think within a season or two, this is going to be a serious contender. But Bloodsport too strong and getting the win.
It was a 3 seed for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a good robot.
It's a very good robot. Fight number 2 is a bit of a mismatch, to say the very, very least.
It's the first mismatch of the episode.
My understanding is, having seen a few posts on Reddit, is that Rampage wasn't supposed to fight Mad Catter in the first place. Apparently, it was supposed to be Smee.
Oh,
that is correct.
Oh no!
Yeah, I believe Smee's second and third fight were on the same day, weren't they, with Gigabyte?
Yeah, and Smee is like a 2-man team, I think. So if we schedule a 2-man team to fight Gigabyte and then Mad Catter in the same day.
A bit rough.
This is a fairly expected, I think. Substitution.
Yeah. It's a shame because I feel like Smee deserved that final fight. They were 1-on-1 themselves. Obviously, Mad Catter. It would have been a cool little.
I don't know what would have happened. It would have been.
A cool little Norwalk throwback as well. Obviously you got Calvin, who's the driver of Mad Catter, who wins endlessly at Norwalk, and of course Joe as well with his Beetleweight Smee does the same thing. It would have been very interesting to see how they'd done heavyweight level. As it is, we got the fight between Mad Catter and Rampage. I say fight.
Was it a fight?
I mean,
I love the Knox boys, but this was rough.
Did the dog fight back in Old Yeller? Like, I don't.
I mean, you're cutting low here. Pulling at my heartstrings.
I will say another thing as well. I spoke a little bit with Calvin regarding this fight. Apparently, the big hits from Mad Catter onto Rampage was at half speed for the weapon.
Yeah.
Well, they had the really big weapon.
They did, yeah. They had a big disc on, didn't they?
Yeah, I think we've said in weeks previously that Mad Catter is the new bloody daft robot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now Bite Force has sort of gone its way, and wherever that's going to end up now, Mad Catter is here, and it's scary. And
still watching that hit back. So many backflips. It's just remarkable.
There was that GIF, wasn't there? The BattleBots released before the season.
redacted.
Yeah. And it was that hit. It was just unbelievably good.
I mean, that even shows growth for Rampage from last year, because there was no portion of Rampage last year that could take a hit like that and contain the hit and go flying. the piece would just turn to liquid and leave, which is like what happened against Fusion.
Yeah.
Science lesson in changing states.
Right. So this year the internals turned to liquid. So I remember I walked over.
Rampage becomes a colloidal gel. And
every single motor was like in pieces and laying separate inside the robot
Amazing.
where it was originally mounted. And it was like, oh, that's what did it. But the robot itself was like mostly in the same shape that it was in, or Mad Catter hit it. So
yeah. Another thing to kind of note
Go
is that Rampage. This is actually their first televised fight.
Yeah, how about that?
Ever.
Finally.
Yeah.
Except for Bounty Hunters, I suppose they were technically televised.
Main
last year,
season,
but-
main
Series.
season.
I will say in this fight, Mad Catter does lose a side drive.
Well,
It does.
so again, I did speak with Calvin about this. I'm just going to get a little quote from him, but talk amongst yourselves a little bit.
The scenes that if Rampage finds a way off the shelf and Mad Catter can't get out of its
It's a shame, and
circumference.
it's something they'll need to work out is their sort of geometry of managing to drive upside down. I don't know whether it would have continued to drive, but Sam's shaking his head.
So what it was, so what I've got here is what was actually said from Calvin, and Calvin said they lost one side of their drive completely. It wasn't just the kind of the front corner; it was the whole side. And what had happened was the receiver wires going to their speed controller had frayed and shortened, and that was it. They only had the one, and they didn't have any redundancy on that part, and ultimately just killed the side of drive.
I bet they will now.
Well, he said that they were going to, but they didn't have the budget to make it happen, basically. So they just ran with what they had, and this is the result. I wonder if that's going to be a bit of a concern for them going into the tournament, because obviously they've got a tough fight in the tournament against Black Dragon, but I mean, you still don't want to fight it because it's so good, and Calvin is such a good driver, and the Oh No Plateau as well. Can we talk about that?
In one day, it came up with a name that I've seen more people use online than anybody say Upper Deck.
It's so good. Oh, God bless Martin Mason and him just hamming it up to the cameras. He's just wonderful.
I think it's either Chris or Kenny in this episode. I think call it the upper shelf, which is a weird blend of the two.
I noticed that. Like,
this is the issue with like production naming it the shelf and
Yeah.
that be a working name for so long, and then telling Chris and Kenny that it's actually called the upper deck, and then
correct.
you just juggling names in your head, aren't you?
Yeah.
If they'd played the audio from us climbing against Retrograde, it was everyone just yelling, shelf, shelf, shelf.
Yeah.
We're not using proper nouns for the fight screaming.
It's a bit hectic when the adrenaline's going, I suppose, as well. Credit to Mad Catter. They ultimately, we've said it previously this season, you can only fight who's in front of you, and
This is true.
Mad Catter did exactly that. You know, it would have been cool to see it fight Smee, but you know, it was still a great spectacle to watch. Maybe another season, you never know.
Really would have loved to see Smee fly.
Well,
dang it.
everyone's still trying to get Smee to get cut in half, and it's just never happened. So.
It's not going to happen.
Deep 6 Gigabyte, yeah, they're trying. They're trying.
It's
I
not
think
going to
that's why they're
happen.
here.
They obviously watched the Rampage, the Rapture Beetle competition last year when Rust in Pieces got cut in half.
You can't kill it. There's just 2 of them now.
Yeah,
Right. Exactly. You
like
created a
worms.
multi-bot. Gotcha.
I wanted to say also with the Rampage team, they one of the little kids, because I honestly can't tell them apart. But
There's a lot of them.
they blended.
Right.
They're all great people.
But in 2020, we had the Tigris wheels kind of hidden in the crate the whole time, and we had a lot of people coming over and asking about them because we used them against Malice like later in the year. But we were super cagey because we didn't know if it would work, so we didn't want to be like, "This is Magictanium," and then it just sucks, because we would pretend they'd never happened instead.
Right.
So we were telling everyone they were carbon fiber. We were telling people they were Garolite. You know, we're just making up stuff. And the only person who called us on it was like one of the 11-year-olds from Rampage, who they're like, "What are the wheels made of?" And we're like, "It's carbon fiber." And he's like, "That doesn't look like carbon fiber." We're like, "Oh, wait, oh no, no."
You're too smart for your own
didn't
good.
see anything.
I'll give you $10 if you don't tell anybody.
I'll buy you an ice cream.
Let's talk
And
about
that's one of my favorite Rampage memories. Is that just like
amazing.
the kid was the first person who called us on our BS. I was like, oh my god.
Oh dear.
Love
Well, let's talk about some Tigris wheels, because the third fight. I mean, I'm not good at Photoshop, so you got regular Huge. Sorry, everyone. Huge versus Switchback. How nervous were you? Because obviously Switchback, I feel like this has happened a few times this year, but like BattleBots is now specifically giving you opponents that can hit your body.
Yes.
How concerned were you? Because we saw what Switchback did to Slammo. It did a number on Slammo very quickly. Huge, obviously. You say it's very defensive. It is, because obviously it's high up in the air, it's hard to reach. But if it does reach you, how concerned were you that things were going to go wrong?
Yeah, so our thoughts on it were like, because it's such a broad weapon, and it didn't. I mean, it hit Slammo very hard, but like it took a while to like get up to speed and stuff. So we figured it would be more likely to have like one good whomp on the frame than any kind of like, whiplash hitting us like 20 times or something like that. What we were afraid of was just literally never been hit like that before. So like, what are we missing for prep that everybody else knows, because Mad Catter takes 12 hits on the chin every fight that we never have taken? And I think that the drive side getting lost when the wire popping up from that was probably one of those things where it's just, we kind of never have had to learn those lessons, which then means we're now learning those lessons in like make or break fights that we're not allowed to lose.
I was going to say, like, you mentioned you lost the drive side. How were you surprised that you weren't counted out?
I don't know. I mean, I knew it, obviously. I'm not sure it registered with a lot of the other people watching the fight. Like Chris and Kenny wise and the reps wise, that had even happened. Because our normal driving before retrograde is very, we let someone get in close and it's kind of grappling where we're turning to try and like flank them and stuff.
Very methodical.
Exactly. Like I heard someone recorded the fight for me to watch it, and it had Chris and Kenny's like live audio on it. They didn't notice that we were down a side of drive until about 5 seconds before the kill shot. Like, they just did not comment upon that fact at all. And so that was my thought, is I feel like they just didn't notice. Like, if they had started to count us out, you can kind of see at the end when Switchback stops moving, we kind of like,
I was like, you started gyroing. I was like, what?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it can do like the big gyro steps. The thing is, it's like the nature of the fight, because if I was fighting something low or a lifter or something, I don't care. I'll take big gyro steps. We'll land on whatever we land on. I'm fighting a 70-pound drum that's up here.
Yes.
So my driving is very like slow and methodical. It's I'm just keeping the weapon as face towards them as I can, because that's why we ran the really long blade that has like the 2 teeth on it. That's why we ran the chins. It was just like, I want you to hit in this one spot, and I want to try and keep you as far away from you as possible. And they still snuck in
gouges in there. From the photo, you can see. I think it's a later hit where you hit and bounce upwards somehow, and you can just see on the underside there's 2 big sort of gashes where Switchback has made some decent contact with those chins.
They did, and they got right in between like the blade and the wheel. And I guess they were the right width to just drive up it, and they put a whole, whatever the drum was storing, they put it all into the chin, and that was the worst case, but it's a better case than if I'm like gyro flopping around, which is more clear motion, but it's and then they hit the back or something, and that would be we're one drive motor away from losing the fight basically. If they hit the one side that is working, and that's it. So it was just kind of driving careful, and if they'd told me to show movement, I could have gyro leapt around probably, but I was I was just more focused on like hit Switchback, make orange go flying.
It's interesting.
You did indeed.
This fight didn't go the way I thought for Switchback. There's the one big hit where near the start of the match where they go soaring over, and then they self-right, but I expected that to keep going throughout the whole fight, because Switchback for me seems like a very top heavy bot. It's not, I don't think. I think it's sort of quite evenly weighted between the bottom section and the top section, and they've also got the sort of side flanges now to stop them from going sideways over.
Correct.
But
I think another thing as well that kind of contributed to the movement kind of conundrum, if you like, was that Switchback, after that first hit, or maybe before that, like they were struggling to drive anyway. I feel like
it seems the farther away they got from the blue square, because they were on that far side of the arena, the further away they got from where the transmitter was, it just Switchback wasn't happy. It just wasn't receiving its its commands. It just wasn't happening. There's a point where it just stops, and I have to think that may have been receiver issues, because it didn't seem like it was being
wasn't
very responsive.
Was
it wasn't responding to what it was telling it.
It didn't look like it was driving totally in control. Even when it was moving, like when we were gyro walking around, they were kind of just going in like slow straight lines. I don't know what it was. I'm kind of waiting with bated breath for them to put their post-fight recap up.
Yes.
Because I don't know what actually truly killed them. Like, we messed up the arms quite a bit.
I was going to say,
underneath
the drum is hanging out.
Yeah. But the underneath was pretty, like, it was physically not too damaged. But especially with things like when we threw ourselves up, that's hitting down. So we do that because it can bend people's axles and like concussive internal damage and stuff. And that could have had an effect. I don't honestly know. But that's, once we lost the side of drive, it was like, all right, let's just hit them 50 times and see what happens.
You became a very good representation of like what a fly cutter does, where like it just slowly whips away. All that one side of that arm is just slowly getting whittled away, and
I think that's the difference with the weapon this year, isn't it? That, as you were saying earlier, you're now going through that armor instead of hitting it and causing slots. It's now just that's gone. That's gone. Take that out.
Exactly, and it's like hitting them and not spinning all the way down too. So like you see when we toss them over, or when we're just grinding on the side of them, for old huge that would have been like done, and then I have to run away and spin back up again. This one is just sitting there and just and then as soon as they get in alignment for us to actually catch an edge and hit it, then we're tossing them. So it's definitely been a good fight to show some of the changes and some of the benefits of it. Which is I wanted
much better energy storage.
Absolutely, I wanted that drum on the floor really bad.
Almost. I think a few more hits, we may have got it. But
I think so. We had the control to like go around and get the other side of it and stuff. Yeah, but they're a good team. They it was fun hanging out with them, fun meeting them. So all in all, they're happy.
It's been cool to see the growth of this idea that I remember seeing their application video and just thinking like, wow, this thing looks just silly. It seems like it looks like something you draw like a kid would draw. Like, I want a drum that can just like go anywhere it wants to. And it seems very fantasy, but they made it reality.
Yeah, made it work.
It definitely did what it was supposed to do. It worked. I mean, yes, they had some grumblings, and I mean, they got hit in the chin a few times and had some bad luck go their way. But it's got potential.
It's a solid concept, isn't it?
That's BattleBots though, and it's only getting harder to show up with like an all new thing. I mean, you saw like Orby's had a tough time this year, and that's even a tested robot.
Yes, true.
And Switchback, there isn't a 30-pound Switchback. There isn't a 3-pound Switchback. There's nothing. This is it. Like, and the fact that it worked at all is a miracle. I remember I saw the application video and I gave them some crap a little bit.
Like there's no way
it'll be as tough as Yeti, and I'm like, sure. Like, who are you again?
A few minutes later, we're fighting them. This is potentially terrible.
I hope I was right. Like,
you're like, here's our little beetle or feather, and like we could make like here comes our heavy. Like, I don't know about that.
Well, that's what's tough is because I got this little storage drive. I have fights, all the BattleBots fights, right? But I'll see like, okay, Riphead's coming, so I have all of his like Norwalk fights on it and stuff too. I'm like, all right, we're fighting Switchback. What do we have? Well, it fell over against Grub,
and it fought Slammo,
and it beat Flammo. And that's it. Good luck. Figure it out from here. What's going to happen?
It must have been quite satisfying, because I want to say you posted somewhere that this was happening the same day as the retrograde fight. It must have been quite satisfying having those two wins.
What a day!
What a day!
That's what I was saying. It was a banner day. Like, it was. We fought, I think, second in the day for retrograde, so that was in the morning, because that one had been pushed from the day before. And then we go back to the pits and rip out. We had to change the bar to the long bar because we're scared. We had to put the chins on. We had to put the heavy top plates on. We had to charge the batteries, try and glance over all the internals and make sure that nothing died. Replace an eye because retrograde hit it on their way past. And just test box and try and it's hard to shorten what is usually like a pretty long and careful process of like putting in the electronics and making sure the foam is just right. And it's just get it in there. Like, we got to go, because if you don't get the fight in that night, you just don't get a third fight, and then the season's over.
Exactly.
So it's like a whole new stress of stuff. I think I've resisted being a 2 robot team for a long time, and it's a day like this that makes me think that we might just need to be a 2 robot team, because it would have been such an easier day to just kind of
smack some more
go back
back
to
the other one. Yeah,
exactly. Grab the other one and be done with it.
Yeah. Food for thought.
Yeah.
And Mr. Jonathan Schultz is looking for sponsors. Please, somebody reach out to him to fund a second robot.
Thank you to Mauser. And
Right,
thank
there we go.
you to TTI.
Attaboy.
There we go. We'll discuss your next match a little bit later on, I think, as we kind of close out, because obviously we've got more fights to talk about.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
We do. An old sparring partner of yours, in fact, Kraken, having a bit of a season. Bit of a season.
Oh, Matt.
Matt. The 0-2 Kraken against the 2-0 Glitch. Things you never thought you'd be saying at this point of this season. And the form team, again, like Kraken getting knocked out.
Yeah. And they made a point of it. They made a point out of it, because what was it? I think they said it was 13 fights that Kraken had fought and not died. Which was the last silly.
Lucky.
We damn tried. Like the top plate was off. The batteries were on the floor. And you know what? There was batteries on the other side, and it was running fine. Like it's an insane robot.
Even having a wheel taken off, no, it just keeps going.
Drove better.
Having your face kicked.
Drove better. Drove straight. It's Kraken and free shipping who can just drive with a wheel, and they're fine.
Yeah.
And Duck, original Duck.
This is true.
It was just,
and based on the referees counting, huge.
Yeah.
But
there's a thing to unpack there. But for Kraken in this fight, I think Matt put a post up already about this. He said he kind of went in a bit maybe overconfident, because I think Glitch also had a double fight day and fought Hydra early in this day and was kind of still suffering a little bit the effects of their flying lesson.
Yeah, they've not really sort of had experience in the pits of doing a whole sort of rebuild in a day, or if they need to. Apparently, when you go past the Glitch pits, it's in pieces again, and then they put it all back together, and it's somehow now 3-0.
it's amazing.
And they're all so young as well. Oh, really?
Yeah, so we were doing our best. I mean, we obviously had things to do that day specifically. And we were not over there working on the robot very much, but whenever possible, we were like, here, take this tool that we have here, stop angle grinding aluminum in the pits, thank you. Like, here, you can, just trying to help them as much as we could with the constraints of the time that we had. And yeah, like it honestly felt like you look at the pit, you never see a fully assembled robot over there. And then you look at the TV and Glitch is there. And it's beating Hydra, and they're like, "What's going on?"
The sky is falling.
I think that's why he's just in so much shock after every fight, because it
just
they
works.
put it back together and it's gone and it's won. It's like,
I have to say, they're obviously, they're all so young as well. Kyle is 19, 20 now, I think. And the rest of the team, they all just look so young. They're all born after the year 2000, and it just makes me think, how inadequate am I? That's what it makes me think. It's just
you're doing fine, Sam. I hear you have a good little Beetle boys doing a great job.
I know. Maybe not last time, but it was.
Oh well,
it's okay. Look,
can't every time.
No, but Glitch is just turned up and it's worked, and it's unbelievable. And the fact that
very rarely happens that you come along and don't face many gremlins.
There's exactly. There's been so many stories that we've covered at this point that new team shows up, something happens you didn't plan.
Great concept, but doesn't work.
Exactly. Like just something doesn't go right and the event just doesn't go as planned. You brought everything, good intentions, and it just doesn't work out. This one, it looks like we're going in the right direction here. I do worry about their control, though. I worry every time they fought so far. Yeah, every time they've fought so far, it's almost like they haven't had enough practice behind the sticks, because it just doesn't seem like they're comfortable enough with Omni.
Yeah, it must be difficult to drive it with a spinner going as well.
And it's only two-wheeled. Two-wheeled? Four? I don't know. Four.
They have 4, but it's like a weird X thing.
Yeah.
It's funky. It's what's so hard about game planning for it is that it has no control until it has control.
Yeah.
And so you always have to, if you're trying to drive around the back of it, all of a sudden it's going to get rip and swing at you at 20 miles an hour. And,
I mean, we saw it in this fight where they're just like straight line into Kraken, done.
Yeah.
Just like, what? Like, where did that come from?
Kraken's like, oh, I'm just going to drive away, and then just chase it down. Like it's crazy. And you're watching them learn. It's like it was barely mobile in the first fight, more mobile in the second fight, more mobile in the third. I think they're getting better, and there's always teams that you see like that, because Jackpot was that last year.
Yes.
The first fight, barely mobile. But
that's a bot that I've missed this time around. We saw like a couple instances of Jackpot where it's just like, then it's the home team. They should have had three. They should have had 3 televised fights. But I mean that's all separate conversation.
We can get to that a little bit later.
Don't get me started.
we can get into that a little bit later on.
But we were that team too when we started. It was half functional. We practically lost drive against Sub-Zero. There was 2 unsticks in the Sub-Zero fight from us getting stuck on each other. Like, it was a mess. And we were a little better for the next one, and a little better for the next one, and
then ICEWave happened.
Yes.
Yeah, we were a little worse for the next one. But yeah, they're just getting better every fight, and it's fun to watch new teams,
succeed.
Learning.
Definitely. Yeah, and credit to them. As I spoke a little bit to Kyle as well about this, and it's just so impressive, and like it's just the way that they conduct themselves as well. Like I said, they're all so young. When I was 19, I did not have the confidence to kind of just do anything, and just the fact that he's kind of stood in front of a TV camera, winning at BattleBots, like the pressure's on. At this point, he's beaten Hydra, who is an established team. Very, very impressive, and credit to that team, and they deserve all the accolades that they're getting, because it's a really cool little robot.
Yep, and their bracket is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
We will indeed. But
oof,
their trial by fire is not yet done.
No,
I know.
Of all the things to happen, they have a great season to go through, and then they get drew against an established team like Witch Doctor. It's tough. It's very tough.
If we still had the 4-fight regular season, they probably would have done it for their 4th fight.
Yeah, they probably would.
Which is the real true
because you end up earning. I think Greg says you earn your way up, don't you, to the big dogs and.
I mean, you look at our fights. It was we fought Free Shipping and Sub-Zero and Chomp, right? And then it was ICEWave, Bite Force, Son of Waiachi, Jasper, Gigabyte.
Yeah.
Like, it was very much like welcome to the show.
Yeah.
And that was our learning, and I think that's what Jasper for them
for sure.
Yeah.
So
I dearly departed Jasper. I did.
It's still alive. It's still about now.
It is. I think they're turning it into a Forky style lifter now, which is cool.
It's pretty fun.
It looks very nice.
It'll work. It's got the power, honestly.
Definitely.
Yeah. So if you're just quick, if you're Matt Spurk, what's the future of Kraken look like? I know he's been like, I'm going to make it a vert and this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other. Like that's what I mean.
It's going to be 2 vert teeth, isn't it? It's going to be
I know. Playful chatter aside, not the season you wanted. You want more out of this robot, and unfortunately, early on in this tournament, their one frame got completely wrecked, and the Kraken we see in this fight is a Frankenstein of its former self, Frankenstein's monster of its former self. And where do you go from here with Kraken? We've been teased of how strong this Crusher is, and it just hasn't had a chance to bite into anything. Is it more of a relation of what it's being fed as fights? We're not really getting to see it live up to its potential, because it seems to get kicked in its teeth all the time.
Glitch is seemingly the ideal scenario for they like fighting the verts, and as we saw in this one, they'll just shove their
a lot of
straight
flat
into
area too, where they could have gripped into. Oh,
yeah, but
I think the problem that they had, and I've seen a few people post about this, is generally you go to BattleBots with a number of setups, or one of each setup, to kind of like, okay, if I'm going to fight a vert, I'm going to use this. If I'm fighting a horizontal, I've got a big plow. Whereas in this season, particularly for Duck and for Kraken, they've both kind of gone against opponents that don't suit their standard setup, and they only have one of each, right? So Kraken had the kind of angled front end.
It was ruined against Rotator.
Duck again had the forks, Witch Doctor, ruined, and they didn't have a spare or a replacement. So
it's interesting you say. So Kraken, this version that fought Glitch was actually, they said in the show, both frames sort of mashed together to try and get it back in to go. It's like, oh god.
This is why we have extra Tegris off to the side, because I only made so many chins, and if who are getting uppercut after a switchback, it's like, oh, we might need some more. I need to make some more.
More chins.
More chins. I'll say, I hope that Matt keeps bringing Kraken because it's one of my absolute favorite robots. It's you never get a dull fight. You never get a dull fight. And it's just a shame. It's a shame that it just hasn't worked out this season. Obviously, we've seen in the trailers it also has a fight upcoming with Orby Blade, so that's not particularly pleasant for them. But we'll get to that eventually, I hope.
I think it is matchups a little bit also because it's like this is the same Kraken that beat Witch Doctor. Like,
exactly.
It's still an amazing robot, and it's just that's the danger of a 3-fight season is you can just lose them and think that your robot sucks, and the fans think your robot sucks, and it's wrong. Like it's an amazing robot. It does amazing things that no one else does, and I think that he could make some changes. He probably will, but that doesn't mean that this Kraken couldn't still beat 20 of the robots that are there right now.
Yeah,
and
I think maybe he's a victim of his own success because, like,
he's getting good fights now.
That's what I mean. Like, when we've said it a number of times, over the last few years, Kraken's gone from a robot that we kind of looked at and thought, huh, and now you're like, oh my god, Kraken's fighting! I can't wait to see this because it's just so good. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, so it's kind of gone from it's maybe a victim of its own success. I don't know, but that's kind of my thinking behind it anyway.
Yeah, if I was in Matt's shoes to whether or not to bring it back, part of me wants to say just remove all of the power behind the Crusher and just kind of make it a grabber because like that's where it's winning a lot of its fights is just grab and hold. You only need to pull off 3 or 4 holds and you've eaten 2 minutes of the fight. So, but that's kind of harder to sell for BattleBots, probably.
Yeah,
it's a huge paradigm shift for how that robot is, presented. So
it is one of the only sort of crushers in the game at the minute, I think.
This season it was,
yeah.
It
was
no Petunia. Food for thought for Kraken.
But I wanted to make that a point before we went on. So
no, absolutely.
Because I love me some Kraken, and we all love some Kraken.
That was one of the best fights.
I mean, I think it was the best, one of the best fights of last season. Like, that yourselves and Kraken was just so good.
Win or lose, it's always a good fight. That's what we want for it. And getting bit by a sea monster is up there.
Fight 5.
Here's your brother Integris.
Yeah. Speaking
in
of
size.
good fights.
This was so good, and I had this is a fight, and I feel like BattleBots has done this a little bit more this season, and I applaud them for it. Is they've gone away and they've not just there's a fight every few fights this season. There's been a fight where there's no kinetic energy spinner, and that's very rare. Like BattleBots doesn't normally do that. We had one with Shatter and Sub-Zero earlier in the season, and this is another one of those, and it was really good. It was great.
It was a really good fight.
And, I had no idea which way this was going to go because, there is no damaging weapon. Obviously, Mammoth took some damage in the end from Lucky's lifter, but I say lifter, flipper. And, yeah, I mean, the guy piloting Lucky this season, he's a novice to combat robots, I think. I know he's an expert in remote control cars, but he's driving Lucky so well.
Yeah. Matt Olson, the RC prodigy, has really taken to combat robotics. I think he's found a home here. What a way to breathe life back into a robot that has been around for a while
and struggled in the reboot.
Struggled.
Yeah.
Yep. It did struggle a little in this fight. It wasn't all peaches and cream.
They had some weapon failure.
Yeah. That's a Ziggy Lucky
bizarre.
thing.
It was up. But still managing to get the flips in. I couldn't quite work out what on earth is going on. I think
the whole arm twisted because I'm guessing it's made to have a robot sit on it and throw them, not to punch.
Yes. Yeah. The robot flips so strong that the frame can bend. So that's a thing, unfortunately. So I mean, it's very possible that they were a victim of their own power. But man, Mammoth flopping around and just. I mean, it was a matter of time before a chain flew, because of how many times they're just bouncing on the ground. Nice to have redundancy, so that at least they still had one. But
still,
and obviously
came off. That's
the drive. It looked like a drive shaft.
Punching of the wheel off. That's such an accurate shot. You couldn't have planned it.
It's such a cool just moment too. Yeah, the axle broke, and then the wheel flew off with it, and it was it's kind of the end of the fight, really.
Yeah.
Perhaps some lasting damage from their tombstone fight then from Mammoth.
They did say, didn't they? Which is a shame because Mammoth obviously a top 16 compared to last year and not even making it to the bracket this time.
I know.
It's
and can you imagine also what the Lucky team was thinking watching 2020? Because this is the same robot. It's same Lucky that would have been in 2020, and the field is so much more insane this year. You know, and Tantrum's so much more insane this year, and that's the only person they lost to. Like, which is been a 3-0 robot last year.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, Lucky themselves could have been, because obviously Tantrum's Shreemec was damaged, wasn't it? It wasn't working in that fight against Lucky, so...
That's all, it was that close, you know? And it's serious robot.
It really is, and like we kind of mentioned, it's been a bit of a renaissance for them. You know, obviously we've talked endlessly about Ziggy and how they've been, you know, it won everything, and Lucky's never really done it. And it's I've always kind of been not disappointed by Lucky, because it's had some great fights, but it's not. There's always been a little bit of I wish it could do a little bit more, and it's done. They've put up and shut up a lot of people this year, and obviously they've got a berth in the 32 as well, which thoroughly deserved, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
The hard work in between 19 and 21 has really been evidenced, and I think, you know, credit to them.
I still remember back when the 2016 season, you know, when Lucky debuted fighting Vita and stuff. I was just a fan at that point, but I like texting everybody I knew. It's like, you got to watch this one fight. Like, this is the particular fight that you can't miss on the show, because I knew the history with Vita and I knew Lucky with their history. And I was like, this is going to be amazing.
Still one of the most watched fights online, I think, honestly.
It wasn't the most amazing fight of the season, but it's something about it.
It comes up every now and again in my recommendations as well. It keeps cycling through.
Because you had heard so much about Beta at that point, and you're like, finally we get to see this robot that's been teased for long. The magnets were so strong, it pulled up parts of the floor, and it couldn't compete. Then it got lost in the post, and
and then can't BattleBots.
And then they were going to fight Tombstone, and then didn't for reasons, and definitely.
It's just so much. I think it's popular because it's so like visual. Yes. You know, spinners don't make sense to people all that easily, but like Big Hammer.
Oh yeah.
Everybody gets it. Big launcher. Everybody gets it.
We've spoken a little bit about Lucky. I do want to address Mammoth a little bit and kind of say, you know, if you look at their season, the fact that they've gone 1 and 2 and they haven't got to play it, I find quite unlucky for them as well. Like we spoke about Claw Viper. Mammoth is another one where a simultaneous knockout with Tombstone, which had the wheel fallen off earlier, they were transitioning a little bit at the end. You know, could have gone another way. This fight, a bit unlucky.
Get out.
On that note,
this is not your podcast anymore.
It's unfortunate, you know, and I feel like, you know, again, they're another team where on another day in history, on another, you know, they could have quite easily been in the bracket themselves, and you know.
Well, that's what's so, you know, messy with the 3 fights versus like the 4 is because literally it was a double knockout with Tombstone, basically a tie.
Yeah.
Right. They're a tiny bit away from, now you're 2-1 and you had a great season. Congratulations, and your changes worked, and you're in the bracket. You know, it's literally just that much. Yeah. And it's such a thin line between one and the other.
Yeah.
So they knocked out Tombstone. It's more than anybody ever expected out of Mammoth.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's more than the audience ever thought would happen as well, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely.
The fact that fight even happened is amazing. Like it just seems like, let's put one of the hardest hitters ever against
scaffolding.
Scaffolding on
the scaffolding nearly won.
Well, remember what you said about earning fights, right? You kind of like step yourself up.
Yeah.
You beat Hijinks, so here you go. This is what you wanted.
Good luck with this one. Oh dearie me. Our next fight, wasn't that fight. It's Rusty and Witch Doctor. I don't know what happened there.
What is this draw? Why?
So there's 2 things. Three
I mean,
things.
I'm going to sound terrible. This is gifting Witch Doctor a win. I love Rusty, but this is making them 2-1. Sorry.
It is. So there's 3 things I want to say. First of all, was that it's a very favourable draw to Witch Doctor, to say the very least.
Heartbreaking on them too. She's like, I don't want to fight Rusty.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to break this poor little boy.
No, definitely not. Secondly, the wedge from Donald Hudson split in half.
I would bring that up. That wedge has stood up to Tombstone in the past. So to see it split in half from Witch Doctor really shows you the power in Witch Doctor.
Yeah, it's not Shockmounted the same way it was on Lockjaw, so unfortunately not exactly favorable to just feed it in.
It's still split in half.
It was also an inch off the floor.
Yes.
It's still split in half.
It did.
I appreciate the fact that, you know, he tried to... tried to make it a little bit more competitive by replacing the hammer with the lifter as well. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Self-righted really good.
It did, which is again
right back up.
Yeah, straight back in the fight, and I say fight.
Of the fight we saw, I would say I'd give more aggression points to Rusty then.
Yeah. There you go. The third thing I wanted to say is plush Rusty. I love it.
No,
it was
made
so
by
cute.
a fan.
Yeah, this came up on the BattleBots group on Facebook.
It did
at filming time.
Oh, a plushie!
Oh yes, let's go.
That was also from an amazing fan who made it and brought it to filming, and then she was like, "Why did you paint the eyes blue? Because they were black."
Oh, amazing!
Again, fans are incredible.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Makes the show go.
I have to say, I hope this is in the nicest possible way. I hope this is the last time we see this version of Rusty.
Yeah, Rusty Senior needs to retire, sit on this rocking chair, eat
popcorn. Do you know what
it
feels like? It feels like the sort of thing you see in the movies where it's like, coming up to my retirement. I've only got one more day on the force. I hope nothing happens to me.
Literally.
Why?
And Rusty has earned a place in, I think, BattleBots history. It's carved. It's getting a hex bug. Come on,
it's getting a hex bug toy.
However,
that's what'll be interesting someday. It's like 15 years from now. It's like the story of the hex bug toy that didn't actually see the arena.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope it does.
I hope he comes back to Rusty Jr. again, and we need that.
Rusty Jr. The full-on, just internal combustion engine hammer needs to happen.
Absolutely.
I love it so much.
With more time, we will.
They need to have some conversations with the ICEWave team, I think, about reducing the weight and size of everything.
For sure.
I will say as well, to kind of polish off the fight, because again, there's not really much fight to talk about. Witch Doctor getting a very low seed. Obviously, we saw they're going to be fighting Glitch in the round of 32.
Yeah.
Obviously, their strength of schedule very much hampered by this fight. I wonder if...
That's what I mean. That has to be why.
It's interesting because this is a balance though, because obviously they've just fought the number 1 seed in Endgame. So you go from fighting that to the number Rusty seed.
Yeah.
It's like what?
And who was their first fight? I can't remember.
Duck, and they lost the weapon.
Of course. Yeah.
Like the builder perspective on it is, and I heard this too from like Valkyrie, because we're good friends with Valkyrie, and they fought, pardon my French, and Triple Crown is. They said we lost the weapon against P1, and we haven't hit anything hard enough since to know if we're going to lose it again.
Yes.
Really. And I think that Witch Doctor, they lost the weapon against Duck, and they lost the front of the frame against Endgame. And I think that they probably would have wanted something to hit a little harder and know for sure.
Yeah.
That
we were talking last week with the Robot boys, and that was a lot of what they were talking about. We're like, I kind of teased them like, oh, they gave you a favorable schedule because they really gave you nothing that could hit you. And we were told it's like, yeah, like you say, it was favorable, but we really never got to test our durability. So now here comes the bracket, and with how they're seeded, they're expected to do really well. So here's hoping that everything's good, So like,
well, that's with their Switchback fight too. Is oh yeah, it's our third fight, and you shouldn't be having issues by now. But like, we have a minute of fight time cumulative before Switchback, because Riptide was 5 seconds and Retrograde was 45 seconds, and it's different. I mean, we're used to at least 3-minute fights. It's always 3-minute fights, and that's just so much more valuable time to go out and drive and test it.
The only thing I didn't get that here for this fight is that perhaps Dave Eaton requested to fight something brutal.
It's going to kill it. Yeah.
But
if that was the case,
send it off.
But if that was the case, then if that was the case, I'm a bit.
I don't want to bring a robot home. What was it like the Aegis team last year?
Yeah.
We don't want to bring this home. Please just kill it.
In that case, if that is the case, though, I am disappointed in the Witch Doctor team for not absolutely detonating Rusty while it's on its side, because there's an opportunity there to just erase
the air tank.
Mike's heart showed up. I think we saw his heart grow at least the size that day.
Rusty was sat there looking like all upset. Just thought, please don't
put me out of my misery. Help! Oh dearie me, with his flappy wedges. What a strange fight. Let's never talk about it ever again.
No, yeah. This is the last time we see Rusty Senior, and we most likely is in One Piece.
Yep.
Oh, what a send off!
What a send off!
A little bit back again. It's fine.
Our YouTube fight for this week is Orby Blade and Dragon Slayer. Orby.
This is the Orby we were talking about.
Waiting. We've waited so long. It finally came.
Everyone said we were mad, Sam. Everyone was saying you said this would be good.
It is, and it was good, and it took a good hit as well from Dragon Slayer. Credit to Jordan and that team. That robot is very simple, but it does the job, and it got a great hit on Orby. Sent it flying through the air.
So taking Orby back in time, King of Bots, it would have taken one of those hits
and died.
Gone flying, died on its ass. That would have been it. It can now take those hits and dish them back, and just removing a panel of armor, just the whole front end. Oh,
I mean, if you sub the robots in this, right? Say it's up, Monsoon and Tombstone, uppercut. Yes. This is the main event.
Yep.
Vertical spinner, chucking it up, horizontal spinner, spins in place, rips the whole front off of it. It was cool.
It was great. It was
and the interesting armor defensive package they had for the back end, the sort of anti-vert flat thing.
Channeling is in a John Reed, the USS Beta armor from last
but with
year.
The difference of having a very slight wedge at the bottom, which helpful.
Yeah. Again, not too much in terms of a fight because there was a couple of hits and that was it. But it was great to see Orby Blade do what it's meant to do. And we've waited 2 fights this season. We never really got to see it in either of them. Scorpius bullied it, and Lucky. I mean, it shed its blade in half.
Yeah.
But much more like it. Dragon Slayer as well. For a rookie to go, a complete rookie, because this is their second ever robot. I think Jordan said.
Yeah.
To fought Duck, Minotaur, and Orby, and come out
with quite the lineup,
win one of them.
And win one of them. It's a credit to them. They deserve. And I hope they get a second chance.
Yeah.
To come
Having seen the CAD of the new one, it looks good. They've got like a horse head spinner, which looks wild, but I'm excited for it.
Dragon Slayer has like a special place in my heart because the motors inside of it, the wheelchair motors for drive and the inflows for weapon, is what 2018 Huge was. And that the main thing, the only thing it ever did right was not die on its own, and that's what Dragon Slayer's been nailing. It's not dying.
It's very reliable. It's quite simple by premise, but they're obviously going to learn so much having come to BattleBots and pick the brains of some great teams who they fought, and credit to them.
And Orby worked.
And Orby, finally.
And did it work?
The best season is where every working robot wins a fight, so everybody feels good when they go home. And I think they needed
because they came a long way. They came a long way.
God, yeah.
Yeah, and the driving of Songwon Ju, which is just wonderful. It's I have a close kinship with her because I'm also a violinist, so I'm also very fond of that. But drove very well. She was all over the place, and I hope I said her name right. But it's always verbal gymnastics when I have to try to say names that just don't fit the English language. But yeah, I really hope to see Blade back, and hopefully that this was their season to just say, hey, this was our application. Please let us come back and have more fun, because we've proved that we can really hit hard. And it's tough when they're compared, when they basically come into they're Korean Tombstone. That's a heck of a bill to meet.
Yeah.
So when it doesn't quite happen, you hope that they've done enough to say, hey.
When you consider as well their opponents, because they've fought Scorpius, who is very established and won a bounty last year and has beaten Tombstone themselves, and then they fought Lucky, who, as we said, this season has gone on a real good run of form and is performing well. And it's difficult for them because Orby, as cool as it is and as amazingly powerful as it is, in King of Bots always had that air of reliability issues and wasn't the sturdiest of machines, let's say.
Yeah,
they've kind of gone back the other way, and it actually has been very reliable. And I think that's a testament to that team that they've come across from Korea. They've had to do a lot of prep work, and they had to wait for a year, like a lot of people did. But it's credit to them. And I sincerely hope we'll see them back, and I think this will be enough for them to be.
We need more international representation, please.
Yeah. I mean, as they said at the end of that fight, it's the first win in BattleBots for Republic of Korea. So, yeah,
absolutely. Our main events.
Oops.
I mean, first of all, what a strange main event. If
Rotator Whiplash. uppercut,
Copperhead, Shatter,
Hypershock.
Yeah, Hypershock. I mean, it's irrelevant. Sorry, Jeffin. Yeah,
4-4 fusion.
Yeah, I mean, after that first fight against Cobalt, everyone was just kind of like, "Oh my god, fusion is really good," and
it's fusion.
Yeah, it's channeled it to the firework box again.
Yeah.
Steve, you look depressed, Steve.
I want it to work, man. I want it to work so bad. It just
doesn't.
No.
I wonder what happens.
It needs to somehow. There's too many things happening in a small space. you ever try to like kickbox in a closet, or it's just like it's impossible. You're gonna break things, including your own.
When
yourself.
we do get merch, Sam, for the RoboCast, can we have just a phrase? You ever tried to kickbox in a closet?
I'll tell you what, you don't get this content on Behind the Bots, do you? It was.
Kickbox in the closet is huge versus Mammoth.
There you go.
It's true. Fusion. I'm so gutted for Reese as well, because after that first fight with Cobalt, it looked so impressive, and obviously Cobalt's got on to great things, so it looks better on Fusion. That it beat Cobalt, and for it to kind of it did okay against Copperhead. It lost ultimately, but it was reliable for a lot longer than I think people gave it credit for. And then this fight, I wonder if that one hit from ICEWave might have got a lipo or something, because it just kind of the way that the smoke poured out, it made me think batteries.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Well, the damage done to ICEWave, I've just looked it up, is, and there is a photo here as well. I'm going to try and get on camera. For those that aren't there, so this is part of the motor that has just sheared, and it's.
Wow.
Yeah,
I thought the chain fell off or something stupid like that. I didn't realize it was
the motor fell out.
When they got back to the pit, they figured out that the entire cylinder cracked after just that one hit against Fusion.
Oh,
man.
Ooh,
it's a brick. It's a really solid brick, which I think is part of why it, when it takes hits, it's like, hey, nothing broke. It just died internally. It's the same deal as Rampage. It just turns to liquid inside.
Or gas in this case.
Yeah.
So ICEWave won, but at what cost? I think is what we've
honestly.
It was a strange one, that. And they all both sort of petered out on the screws in front of the upper deck and just sort of went, and who's still moving? Oh, ICEWave barely.
Yeah.
Oh, Fusion's on fire.
I thought it was really funny. I was kind of cackling through the whole thing, just because it's kind of like a Benny Hill thing, ICEWave's really going, and then it dies, and here comes Fusion, and then it's not moving, and ICEWave's stuck in the screws, and then Fusion's on fire.
It's bizarre to think that this is a main event and not a basement fight, because
just put the Bloodsport.
Literally, they could have done it. No one would have complained. Nobody would have complained.
I would love that if the main event just became what the best fight of the episode is. You gotta earn it, and if give people something to actually look forward to, because I don't think a lot of people are going to watch Fusion ICEWave and then say that the next main event is a can't miss. If that's your...
I mean, look at Endgame versus
the world according to Jonathan.
Sawblaze. Look at that fight. I mean, there was, when we spoke to the Ribbot team, for that week, they said that they were meant to be a main event as well against P1. I would have much rather seen that as a main event than what we got. Obviously,
you can't knock them down from being a main event, even though it was 5 seconds.
I know, but it's you get
Maybe
what I mean.
Gunning for the number 1 seed. Come on now.
Yeah, I get it.
Huge versus Hydra was supposed to be a main event.
Oh gracious!
Yeah.
If it no!
Imagine the fallout then. Oh my goodness!
Oops.
Oh my god!
But
Making
Fusion wasn't
wait for it all episode. Yeah.
Fusion out of the gate in this fight, you can see it's not right. The front disc isn't spinning. Like they're leading with that. They're not gonna
they're spinning one or the other, not both.
Yeah, it seemed like both just didn't want to go together, and you're not going to feed a non-spinning weapon into ICEWave. You're just not going to. So something wasn't right, and it seemed to be very gingerly moving around. And I know Reese probably very disappointed with this, because I know there's the ad break in between, like where Discovery does like that thing where like it comes back and then it's gone again for commercials, because that's what they do. But television got to pay for ad space. But there's if Hydra's not taking it, if I'm not taking that nut, Hydra's taking the nut. And it's like, all right, well, I guess where's our fusion Hydra fight too? Let's let the fight it out.
There's your play-in right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, surely they gave Hydra a play-in.
Only space for one Archie. Sorry.
Oh, imagine if they'd have done it though. Just for the promos alone would have been amazing. Like they
got enough robots. You could have a full Waiachi Rumble with 6 robots. Just bring Son of Waiachi out of retirement. Bring Falcon. Why not?
There's reports of some foul language from Reese, and I must have missed it completely.
He was talking about donkeys, Jevin. He was. You got to protect the little kitty's delicate ears, man.
Yeah.
It's 10 p.m. at that point.
Honestly,
that's past the watershed.
It's a school night.
Yeah.
It's a school night.
It's past.
Stop it.
It's past the watershed. Come on now. You can hear a little small curse. It's okay.
People just like to poke people. It's fine. Whatever.
And yet they bleeped Pete Abrams in the other week.
No, he needed to be bleeped in what he said. I mean, it says a lot about what we're going on about because there wasn't much fight in this fight.
No.
Yeah, it's a shame, but
ICEWave gets a win.
I'm happy to see ICEWave back in because God bless him. That
Sneaking
robot
in, just getting there. Just enough.
I think a fair seeding in the bracket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That robot, it's a throwback, but it's cool to have it, and it makes a great noise, and it will continue to make a great noise, I'm sure.
Mm.
Which brings us to the end of this episode, Jonathan. Your next fight is uppercuts.
Oh boy.
What was your reaction when you heard you're fighting uppercut next?
So remember how it was like a banner day that we had going there? So we got the matchup for this at 10 p.m. So really,
sweet dreams.
12 hours. Yeah, it was like you got a knockout, which is a big deal for Huge. You doubled your career total of knockouts in a single day, which is a bigger deal for Huge. You're in the playoffs. Uppercut. Yeah. So I like that they get the 5th seed on beating robots that we've also beaten. Because it was gigabyte and free shipping. So I think the seeding is a lot based on your trajectory heading into the bracket more so than who you fought in the season, because Uppercut had an amazing 2020 and we had a horrible 2020. But yeah, it was, that's our worst nightmare. It's right up there at the top of the list. It's them and Deep Six of people we think we have a plan for, and we're not confident in the plan, but we're going to try it. So it's, same really long blades, same Tegris wheels, twice as much chins, and thinner top plates, because titanium wouldn't stop them anyways.
A double chin, Jonathan.
Double chin. More, if I had room for triple, I would. And so, yeah, it's just really try and keep them away, try and take the hit if we have to, and hope. No one expects us to win it, so that was what we knew as a going.
There's always the chance of hitting the sort of the frame around the spinner and just really mangling it enough to do some meaningful damage.
And that's the hope. It's not. We don't have a track record fighting stuff like that because at local events, Huge is fighting generally the lowest common denominator, wedges and vertical spinners and stuff like that. Just the things that are most common there. We've got probably 2 or 3 fights against tall vertical spinners, and it's won all of them.
Yeah,
Huge has. But it's won them while taking a bunch of hits on the chin, and that's the education we had to say why we needed the chins. But having a chin and it working against uppercut is 2 very broadly different.
I was talking to a number of people about the draw kind of when I saw it, and I kind of said, well, in my mind, it's going to be interesting to see if uppercut could reach you, but I also remembered Gabriel fought Aftershock, and that didn't go very well in Robot Wars.
It went very quick.
It did go very quick, so but potentially it could be quite exciting. This fight you've got coming up, but
we still outreach them, because Gabriel has to time the hits and stuff. We just big spinner, so
just
still got to take a hit.
Yeah.
But they've taken hits before. So.
It's true. It is very true.
And at least it's different data to fighting Whiplash a third time, I suppose.
Imagine fighting Whiplash again in the bracket.
They're on the other side of the bracket this time.
Oh, Huge never goes anywhere in the brackets. Bite Force, Whiplash. And Bite Force we almost beat, and Whiplash we tied the first time, basically. It was split decision, close as any fight that season. It's always we're right on the cusp, you know what I mean? and
maybe
having uppercut is like, damn it.
Yeah.
just when you thought, back you go. No, thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, you got to fight the best to be the best. Unfortunately, I mean,
You do indeed.
I mean, they.
The best are really short. The like.
When did you join the Sawblaze team? There,
I was going to
Steve?
say, yeah.
Oh, that's true.
It
That
didn't
is
go-
a thing
it
that
didn't go
JMO said,
great.
didn't he?
It's an exclusive right there. Jonathan, thank you very, very
I'll
much.
Venmo
for
him
joining
later.
us. Monzo's better. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again, and I sincerely hope there is a little bit more of Hughes we're going to see this season.
I hope so too.
Well, with
Thank
that
you very
said, no, our pleasure. With that said, I have been Sam at 64.
I've been Steve, the American Killjoy.
I've been World of Woodrow.
And I've been Jonathan from Huge.
And the three of us will see you, well, not next week. We've got another little podcast coming to talk about the round of 32, which we're literally about to go and record.
Yes.
So that should be fun. Trevor, what are you touching there?
Some.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
I have to set
interesting.
mine back up again.
Okay.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about this one?
The huge eyes.
No, okay, there you go. Got you. I understand.
We'll see you for our round of 32 preview at some point this week. Bye.